Hey, fun fans! We're giving away a Devastator 3 keyboard and mouse combo courtesy of Cooler Master on YouTube for this month of June. All you have to do to enter is subscribe to Fun's YouTube channel and leave a comment on which state or region you think will be the next to go to districts. You can enter once per upload, and we'll pick a winner near the end of June.
And we're going to go to the Detroit Championship. Pauline, you want to tell us what happened in the round robin in match number 5?
Back in 2018. All right. So this match was one of the most game-changing matches I watched all season. I wish I was actually at Detroit Championships to watch this in person. I didn't watch it till about 2 weeks after Detroit, and it was insane. But this match honestly would have changed Einstein finals for the Detroit Championships. This match, I think you all know what match it is, features, I was going to be dramatic.
I would say, was that a drum roll?
Yeah, it was a drum roll. Features 2056, 1241, and 2869, representing the Tesla division, where they would eventually beat the half world championships, the Dally division of teams 27, 67, 27, and 40, 27. And they beat them by a landslide. Like, it was a pretty insane match. During the match, you can see the Tesla division having a large advantage, not just at the end, but actually throughout the entire match. They were up there on the leaderboard, and they won by 430, a score of 430 to 281, which is insane. They were really sweeping that match. So how did the other alliance end up winning the World Championships, and how did 2056, 1241, and 2869 not end up even on Einstein finals is really the question. What makes it a game changer is at the end of the match, I think we have it queued up, maybe. The end of the match, towards like 218. Yeah, a little bit. You could see that 2869 was trying to get on 2056's forks and ends up falling off, which cost them the 30 points in climbing. Yep. Those forks are always not fun. We had a bunch of teams fall off our forks on Code Orange as well. They fell off. They still won the match, but the reason that this is actually a game changer is that it changed who ended up in finals on Einstein. The Tesla division ended up in the 3rd spot and didn't move on to finals, even though they had the same exact record as the two alliances that went on to Einstein. It came down to the tie of climb points. Because they dropped 2869, they didn't get those climb points and didn't win the tiebreaker. So two other alliances ended up going into finals, even though they ended up beating in a round robin match the team that won the half world championships. And it's crazy. Guys, jump in honestly, because this is such an insane match.
Some fun facts about this whole thing. So 2056, obviously, to win 23 regionals in a row, you have to be lucky to some degree. But I swear they used up all their luck in winning 23 regionals in a row, because that championship, this is now 3 years in a row they've been eliminated on tiebreakers. So in 2016, there was a match tiebreaker in the finals. In 2017, they lost on the total points tiebreaker in the round robin. They were 3rd place and didn't get to go to the finals. This year, 3rd place because of the total points tiebreaker. So that just hurts me, especially with the close relationship I have with 2056 and 1241. An interesting fact is that 2767, 27, 2708 only lost 3 matches as an alliance, this alliance, and not to forget 4027, who was another awesome part of that alliance. But those 4 teams only lost 3 times. And each time they lost to alliances featuring 2 Canadian teams. They lost 1 match at the finals of their division, where 2013 and 2706 were the Canadian reps. And then on Einstein, they lost to 2056, 1241. And they lost their last round robin match to 865 and 4917. So I thought that was a little bit of a weird coincidence in all of this. But I would have loved to have seen a rematch in the finals between the 27 alliance, let's just call it, because they all had 27s in them, against this 2056, 1241 alliance. It was kind of crazy how that one played out. I have some strong thoughts on these tiebreakers. PJ, Pauline, do you want to go first before I rant?
No, go for it. I want to hear what you say.
Yeah, I would say I feel like I haven't been close enough into it to have strong opinions. I think they're kind of dumb for a lot of reasons, but I don't have a rant prepared. So
Okay, so I'm actually okay with the way it was done this year with the park and climb points being the first tiebreaker. What I was really concerned about as I started watching the Houston round robin, and I saw like a train wreck possibly coming, and we avoided it. But I was really worried that everyone was going to max out their climb points, and that would all be tied. Like your top three teams, say they all get their 450 right there. And then we go to auto points, which someone would be like, well, auto points is a good tiebreaker. And I'm like, yeah, normally, except this year's auto points are totally dependent on plate assignment. Because if you're crossing the field, it is going to be harder for you to get auto points than it is if you're on the same side of the field. And that is totally a random factor. And if that ended up being the tiebreaker, then it came down to like a couple seconds of auto scoring here or there. It's like, or like teams in auto, no one, like, it just like suddenly we're racing to these sort of things. So like that one's kind of weird. I don't understand why they don't use as their first tiebreaker head to head. So
like ever sports ranking ever.
And like,
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote the tiebreakers for VRC does with their
Okay.
round robin, and they use head to head. And in this case, head to head wouldn't really matter because when you have a four-way tie, chances are that those groups are tied. But then I haven't broken this one down, and maybe I'll do it right now as we're talking. But head to head is just like a natural to go to, and it would be really silly if like number 2 and number 3 were tied. Number 3 had beaten number 2, but number 2 had more climb points, so number 2 advances for that reason. Head to head just seems like the natural to go to, and I think it's pretty intuitive for the audience. Now, it gets less intuitive when you have massive 4-way, 5-way ties, but there's nothing. Blair and Renee can explain that, or Nick and Mason can explain that to the audience and really break it down. In VRC, we actually had our software developers write a piece of software for me that calculated all the potential tiebreakers. So I had it on my screen at the table, so I knew what would happen in individual matches. Because in previous years, I used to do it all in my head, and it was like, this is a lot. And so like we just set it up, and so that could explain it to the audience. But head to head, like PJ said, like every other sport, head to head, except for soccer, who uses goal difference. But I'd be more inclined to use point differential in matches as opposed to these secondary sorts of things. So
yeah, I could get behind point differential. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
But like last year, I thought total points was great. I think that was a good tiebreaker, because that was incentivizing like getting your 4 rotors and like amount of balls scored. It was combining the two. Using the breakdowns here of like climb points, auto points, I just think I would have gone total points first. And the auto points in this year's specific game, but like I'll be completely honest, I don't think it never occurred to me that auto points being a second tiebreaker was a risk until the round robin started in Houston. Because it's so like I can understand like if I missed it, and like I'm pretty sure pretty much everyone else missed it too. Like this is not easy for first to do, So, but this is one of those hindsight ones that as you may be looking forward, try and find things that are more likely to have a spread. Because with climb points, you're looking at things that are basically a linear combination of 5 and 30. And when you're taking linear combinations of 5 and 30, you're going to have lots of ties, especially when you're only playing a handful of matches. So.
Interesting comment from chat about, just because as we're talking about tiebreaker, somebody, LC910, said total points as a tiebreaker kills defense.
It does.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm not saying, I'm just.
Yeah. No, it absolutely does. That's why score differential can be looked at, or score ratio is what they use in FIBA, the international basketball. They use point ratio as opposed to point differential, so that's an option. In general, first tries to incentivize offensive play. So I'm okay with rewarding teams who play for more offense. But it definitely was a factor in the round robin in 2017 at the St. Louis Championship, because there was a lot of talk about like, hey, maybe we're going to try a 3-and-D strategy. And certain alliances were like, we can't risk trying a 3-and-D strategy because we want to make sure we score as many points as possible for tiebreakers. So yeah, that's... Anytime when you choose tiebreaker, you have to understand you're creating incentives. And now the other thing is, and some people have talked about this a little bit, the round robin creates some weird incentives where teams may not it may not be their best interest. Like they may have already locked up a spot in the finals going into the last match, and then they can start trying to mess around with the tiebreakers to try and choose who they play and that sort of thing. So
Almost
you do
a
have to be careful here.
2010 type scenario to a different extent.
Yeah, definitely.
Different, but like, the same idea where you could influence things by choosing to be bad or whatever.
Using the total points example and using 2017 as an example. So if I have run the board, I've won my first 4 matches, and I'm undefeated going into my last match, and I know I've clinched. It's like, hey, I can do whatever I want this match. I have a little bit of and so if I'm playing against a team who needs to win and score really high, I could decide to play a 3-and-D strategy on them. Because it's like, I don't want to deal with this team in the finals. And I'm not sure I can beat them at all. But if I just slow down their scoring so they can't get a 5-10 here and just muck things up for them. So we send all 3 robots. Forget 3-and-D. Who cares if we lose this match? Let's just play everyone on defense on them. Heck, let's take an intentional red card. It doesn't matter if I get a red card here. But if I hold their score below 500 points, they're not moving on. So, it's just saying here. There's some weird incentives that you have to be wary about with tiebreakers. And that's why head-to-head. Looking at a couple questions here before we get into our giveaways. From
Richard 3620, he asks, PJ Pauline Karthik, comments on different tiebreakers for seed rank versus round robin. Good game design? ?
I think it's okay. Like normally, I like to have things be consistent between elims and finals, but I think it's important to make the round robin plays so differently than qualification matches, and because there's a limited number of matches that are occurring, I think it's why it's okay to change things as opposed to you're not trying to rank a group of 40 teams into a top 8. You're trying to rank a group of 6 alliances into a top 2. So those are very different constraints. Another question we have from P-Rate is the Curie versus Tesla match was even crazier because they climbed but didn't get high enough.
Those are always the worst ones.
I need to.
I'd say I don't know that one.
Yeah.
Don't mind us. I'll just go to TBA. Fast.
Yeah, I'm gonna go find it to see what happened here.
I miss the days when you just had to get off the ground, like in 2013, where it's like, okay, a paper can fit under, good, you're climbing.
Except, as a ref, you had to go out there with your piece of paper, and it was real irritating. But whatever.
Tyler, can you bring up the score breakdown for semis 1, match number 14? Oh my goodness. Oh, this wouldn't have affected anything though. Okay, I got it.
It wouldn't have affected anything. It was just sad.
Like most matches.
Yeah, because I remember that. Because I mean, like, and it's like it's always as the referee who's putting in whether you climbed high enough. Just know the referees also feel sad inside when you didn't get high enough. Like, I look at those robots and it makes me so sad. But.
Yeah. So if you scroll down there, Tyler, just for us, you see that robot number 1 only got a park, not a climb, and as such, they lose 25 points. And so if you give them those 25 points, they would be at 420, and that still would put them behind the 217, 3357 alliance who had 425. So that one is heartbreaking, but it wouldn't have made the difference there. So like Tesla was, they were already eliminated basically at that point. Well, no, they weren't necessarily already eliminated because there was one more match to come that could have affected. No, yeah, because 27 and 27, the 27 alliance hadn't played yet, so they could have only gotten to 420, and then it would have gone to auto points. So yeah, it was. They still had a shot at that point, but barely. But yeah, that was also terrible. Let's look to see our last question. And Novabus, please don't eliminate our role from the 27 Alliance. Don't worry, if these tiebreakers changed slightly, there would still be defense played because at the end of the game, wins are still the number one tiebreaker. So if you think that's your best way to win the match, you would definitely still be playing defense. And 2708, we definitely aren't trying to remove your role. And trust me, this year at Ontario events, you will be getting so much love from me on the microphone. It's not even going to be funny. So I'm all ready for it.
2708. I like, and then even 4027. If we're gonna shout out both defensive robots, because 4027 stepped up when 2708 had those issues. So I don't know. I love that alliance. The all 27 alliance was, I don't know. It was a fun time.
All right. PJ, do you want to tell us about our giveaway this week?
Sure. Before we go into any final questions and comments, let's start our giveaway from our amazing artist, Christina Tia from Wordplay All Day. A reminder, if you do win, to please make sure you shoot a message to First Updates Now on Twitch or on our Discord. The keyword for today's giveaway is mystery, MYSTERY. To win, you must follow the Fun channel, or if you choose to directly support the show and subscribe, you get 5 times chance to win. We'll draw for the winner in a few minutes. So go ahead and type mystery in chat.
And while that is going on, we have a couple more questions here. And so from P-Rate, what do you think captains will be looking for in backup bots at IRI this year?
Interesting. It depends on the captain.
For backup bots, though, you want to ensure they can get on your climbing mechanism just the same, just in case you need to swap them out. That's always the first thing on my list.
Yeah, so when I think of fourth robots, I kind of think, so usually my thought is, especially at a level like IRI, if your alliance captain or your first robot breaks, you're done. So even with whatever you're going to get as a backup bot, you're probably done. So I don't necessarily try and look for a mirror or a carbon copy of the alliance captain of the first robot. I look for a different way of playing the game. Mm-hmm. And so I think I really like going one offense, one defense. So I would pick probably I typically use the third and fourth bot interchangeably, like those picks, and I would probably want one to go with 3 scale bots on the field, and they're not necessarily going to all play the scale. But then I would love to have as a fourth robot just like a really annoying little switch bot that can make people's lives miserable.
Love annoying little switch bots.
Yeah,
those are
like the perfect example would be like Howdy bots that 118 and 3310 had.
Bots.
I would want that would be a fourth bot that I would really like. I haven't really looked at the IRI team list too much, so I don't know how many switch bots there are there. But I think that's a unique.
I've heard there's only a few, pure switch bots, only 3 or 4, if memory serves.
I would want someone who can, who's not afraid to get a little bit messy and play some defense in case you want to go for a 2 offense plus 1 defense kind of strategy.
I would pick probably very similar to what 2056 and 1241 did actually. I really like their fourth. I've been a 6090 fanboy all season. They're my little FIM. I love them, but they're between 2869, who's your little annoying defense switch bot, and then 6090, who was a quality scale bot, a first round pick in their division at MSC. They're a quality scale bot who could play switch and had, if they had to. So they had the offensive capability you needed if, you wanted to try 3 offense and stuff like that. Yes, I really liked how they put together their alliance. 6090 didn't get any play time just because they didn't need that offensive robot. But I really liked how they put their alliance together.
Pauline, you were on the number 1 alliance at championships, so what were you thinking?
That is crazy. I've never been the number 1 alliance at championships. I think it was different than when I've been at championships before, just because my division didn't really have insane teams, if that makes sense. But for us, we were just thinking, okay, we're obviously going to pick 1323. That was a given. And we were okay, like you said, what are different ways we could play this game? Because when we were thinking, we're okay, if we make it out of this division, what do we need for round robins? Are there different ways to play the game? That's kind of what we found. And I remember our 4th robot that we ended up getting, I was actually working on their robot right before a limbs because RC was like, this robot's really good. You should go check it out, Pauline. So I went and checked it out to make sure they could get on our climber. And we had to grind down a bunch of metal. But it worked out, and we ended up using our third and fourth robots actually like about the same amount. Like we played our third, we played our fourth, and they were pretty interchangeable. Our third, I think, ended up tipping our last round robin match. So maybe our fourth was better. It's okay. 1323's chain fell off our last round robin match. A lot of things happened our last round robin match. But it was good. Just pick the ones that work and that are nice. I always we have a do not pick list of teams that are just kind of like a-holes that we really don't want to work with, honestly. Yeah. There was one event I went to that this guy was just screaming at me because we told him to stay in this part of the field. And he's like, no, I want to be at this part of the field. Just calm down.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about this during the alliance section a bit, where when you're trying to pick a third robot, the third robot for your alliance, how much these externalities factor in. It's even more so when you're going for a backup robot. So here's a good question from the unofficial fourth. What would you consider the best way for mentors to teach strategy, especially if you want to get students to think independently about it? I kind of find that the best way to teach strategy is to watch matches with the students and then talk about them the way we would on an episode of FUNalysis, and just be like, hey, why did this decision happen here? Why do you think this decision happened? What decision would you have made in this situation? What if the match changed this way? Just having that discussion where you keep asking them questions, which makes them think about it. So as opposed to just telling them what the right decision is, ask the question, get to hear what they think is the right answer, and then tell them, well, here's what I would have done. And then they might say, ooh, I don't like that idea. And then you explain why you think your idea is better, and they explain why they think their idea is better. But that's sort of, I think strategy is best taught with case studies and using the case study method. What about you guys?
I agree for sure. As you know, I was a strategy mentor for a long time. My old answer would have been take your students to see Karthik's presentation at Champs. But that answer is not relevant anymore.
Well, you know what? It might be this year. I just need to figure things out. Yeah, I would like to be back to give that presentation again.
No, I took my head scouts. I always took my head. Any kids who wanted to go, but I always took my head scouts every year. But then, but on top of it, the case studies and just, it's also building sort of. Like I do, when I was talking about what I did with alliance selections today, I do that as a debrief with after events. I used to do that with my head scouts or with strategy kids. It'd be like, okay, why did alliance selection go that way? Why didn't we get picked if it was an event we didn't get picked? Why? Let's look and break down why these teams did what they did, which is it's different from a match strategy perspective, but it's another aspect of strategy that I found that to be a useful method as well, because it also helps you debrief on your own performance as well.
All right. So now, sorry, Pauline.
No, go for it.
No,
for me, I was actually never a strategy mentor. I only really did scouting when I was a student way back in the day. But what helped me out when I was a student is we didn't really have an off season, but right before our competitions, I remember our mentors and a couple of our alumni came back, and we just binge watch all the videos of the week previous, and we'd sit there, and I was so confused. I started in 2011. It was a very confusing game as my first game. I was confused what's going on, and I had them explaining it to us all throughout the process. So I was like, oh, this is kind of what I think is happening, and they would explain, and we'd go back and forth and create that conversation, and that's what got me to learn the strategy a little bit more. So when it came time to the actual regional, picking out teams, looking at the competition, we understood what was going on and what we thought was good strategy. That's kind of how I learned. I've never had to mentor a kid on it, but that's how I learned.
It's okay. You just make it up as you go along when you're mentoring kids on it.
Yeah, true. And for students who want to learn independently, I can't say this enough. Just you guys are so lucky now because there's so much match video available. I remember, I'm not cute, when I was a student or whatever, but there was nothing. YouTube didn't exist. It was miserable. So just watch matches and be asking yourself, what would you do if you were that team? If you were and go through all 6 different teams on the alliance and try and put yourselves in the different shoes. Like if you're in season, pick a robot that's similar to yours. What would you do in their role? And just kind of go through that. Here's a really cool question. We're getting some good questions tonight. With more regions going to districts, is burning the field going to be more common or less common due to the fact that you get more points for earlier picks versus later captains? I have opinions, but I want to hear from you guys, especially PJ, since you live in the world of districts already. Like Pauline is never going to districts.
Yeah.
I've
literally
moves.
I've been in districts since day one. That was my junior year was the switch, 2009. So I did do both. But yeah, I've been in Michigan for a long time. So it's hard. It's hard to say because there's benefits to doing both. Like, yes, you get the points, but your draft position points are what? It's a maximum of was
the
it
difference
20, yeah, I would say doesn't it go 24, 23, 22 all the way through or something like that?
16 down through 9. So
Sorry,
the most points you can gain is if you were to accept number 1, then you would get 16, and if you ended up being the 8 captain, so you could gain 7 points.
Okay, and so it's
maximally.
That's what I knew it was close, and then but advancing from quarters to semis is 10
points
right there. So scorching, like you're not gonna like I would never accept somebody ranked higher than me just for the draft points if I didn't think I was gonna make it out of quarters. Like there's not enough draft points.
Now, but here's a way of thinking about it, I guess. So like often, I've been in positions where it's like, okay, like we're the number 10 seed and number 1 is like terrible. We don't want to work with them. And it's like, okay, so if we decline them, we're going to end up being the 8 captain. And even though number 1's terrible, we might lose as the 8. Like being the 8's a miserable position, or like we could be in 7. And so it's like, yeah, maybe I just want to take those quick points. And also, if I accept number 1, I know we can get to the semis. So I'm going to get myself like a few bonus points plus 10, as opposed to if I decline, it's like, well, like, you know, you're not going to win in the semis kind of thing. It's just like, it's like a reward. It's a ratio there about what you want to do. I think that teams in general are decline averse when it comes to alliance selection. Teams hesitate to decline. I think teams often accept because declining, so like, when you think of the NFL, teams are 4th down averse. Like it is just mathematically more teams should be going for 4th down than kicking field goals or than punting. But coaches don't like doing it because that's a distinct public example where you can be proven wrong. You go for 4th down and you don't get it, everyone's going to blame you. And I think teams treat alliance selection the same way. When you decline and the team that you declined, goes further than you, people are like, oh, look at the big mistake you made. It's very visual like that. So I think teams are afraid of putting the attention on themselves. And also, I think there's an issue of like a little bit of GP stuff there that teams don't want to be the team that declines. And like, I know 11-14's been in situations where we have accepted teams where we're just like, oh, we can't possibly decline that team. Like that's going to look so weird if we decline team with insert big team number here.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I'm saying insert big team number here is like shows how awkward these situations were. There's been times where we've been so thankful that when a certain team's like, yeah, we're actually not going to pick you. We're going to pick someone else. We're like, ooh, we don't have to decline you and go through that embarrassment factor or whatever. So I think that teams already have big incentive to accept, and I think that's probably gonna. I don't know that the district part of it changes much. At the same time, for teams who are around that cutoff, man, you do anything for any point, because like I was helping out a team this year and they missed going to Worlds by 7 points, and then you just look back at the whole season of, what if this happened differently? What if this happened differently?
That's the worst. When like 9-10, when I was on 9-10, we were the second or third team out of making MSC one year, and like we're talking that's like a 2-3 point difference.
Yeah,
you're like, you win one match. Like, you win one qualification match and you're going to states, and you just didn't.
But
like,
I did notice something in Ontario being in districts for the past 2 years, and in the past, there were a lot of teams who, after day one, they're like in 20th place. They know they're not moving into the top 8. And so day 2, they just want to work on showing off and trying to get picked, which like makes sense strategically. I've seen distinct examples of teams like that in the last 2 years who've still played for the wins because they want every district point possible. So the point system, I think as teams get more acquainted with the point system, and like teams in Michigan who've only lived through it, game it better than others. And I think Ontario, like a lot of us, are still figuring it out. And California will never.
I feel like it'll go to districts when I'm like 80 years old or something.
They'll go before Minnesota, so don't worry.
I actually don't think so.
I think it.
I think they will.
I am dead set on the fact California will go before Minnesota. They're both not going anytime soon.
I know we're just going on this topic right now, but like I've heard people from Minnesota tell me specifically that our teams prefer playing 8 matches for a season as opposed to going to 2 districts of 12. They don't want to play that many matches.
I guess
I've been told by people in high positions in that state, or self-proclaimed high positions, I'll call it, that our teams prefer playing 8 matches over 12. They don't want to go to 2 events.
I have a feeling that's not a representative sample.
I mean, like it's weird things, but I will say this: after Ontario transitioned to districts, like I want Ontario in districts and whatever. I love Ontario in districts. I did speak to a lot of teams who didn't like being in districts, and one of the places was they liked having a route to get the championship by just going to one event. Go to one event, get your way to championship, as opposed to having to go to 3 events before championship. And they were concerned about how much time they were taking off of work and how much time they were missing. So there were some mentors who were just like, they didn't like the extension of that sort of thing. So I don't know. It's a complicated topic.
It is not the night to talk about it.
I need 2 glasses of wine before I can talk about districts.
PJ, do you want to tell us who won our draw tonight?
I will, as soon as I know. It looks like our winner for the awesome Wordplay All Day Mystery Pack is, Hola Zola 5818. Which so congratulations to Hola Zola 5818. Once again, remember to send first updates now either a message on Twitch or on our Discord channel to get that all set up.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our episode of FUNalysis. Let's bring on our producer, Tyler, to thank all of those who have donated and subscribed to keep shows like FUNalysis going.
Thanks, Pauline. Yeah, guys, we definitely need your help if we're going to keep doing 4 shows a month. We hope you love the content for what we do. Next week, by the way, we're bringing back that fun trivia night, guys, so hopefully you like that, and hopefully we'll have it good for you. But do want to give a big thanks to GC Rose for their Tier 1 subscription, Nova Bus for Tier 1 subscription, OMC for your bits, Lino C for your Prime subscription of 6 months, and Said 1458, 16 months of support. Thank you, Said, for your 16 months of support, and thank you to everybody who is helping keep these shows going. We need your help. In summer, it's slow, I know, but we got to get that in there. And if you have Twitch Prime, no excuse, guys. Make sure you click that subscribe button once a month.
So, everyone, great night tonight, especially Pauline. You did an awesome job your first time here on FUNalysis. I know you are helping run the Great Beach Blitz off-season event. What can people expect from Beach Blitz this season?
You can expect a lot of awesome teams. We're having some really cool applicants from Arizona, California, of course, Idaho. Like it's actually insane how many teams are applying. As always, you can expect a really quality-filled event. If you want to volunteer, please sign up. We need way more volunteers. You can do any role. There's no age limit or no age range. You can be literally 12, and I'll put you as an FTAA if you want it. So, yeah, it's going to be really, really fun. I hope to see some of you guys come if you want to come.
I don't want to go to an event with 12-year-old FTAAs. Unless they're like FLL or Vex IQ superstars, I guess.
If I had time to go to California, I'd probably go to Beach Blitz. But, who has the time?
You go to Disneyland and get Dole Whip, though, so it's, worth it. Anyway, PJ, what's going on in FIM, and where can people expect to see you this off-season?
And FIM, we're gearing up for another off-season. I mean, FIM does like 10-ish off-season events, probably closer to 13 or 14 at this point across the state. So we're gearing up to do all that. Where can people expect to see me? As of right now, I'll be at Big Bang next weekend. I'll be probably be at MVRC in Ohio. The weekend after that, I'll be at IRI as a referee. I'm going to be at RoboCon in Lapeer as a referee. I might be going down to WVROX. I'm doing Bot Bash in Midland. I'm doing probably Kettering Kickoff. I'm doing one in Virginia. Probably doing either Fall Fiesta or Stemley Cup. I haven't decided yet.
Ooh, come to Fall Fiesta, man.
I know. I've heard. Yeah, I was saying. I know. I went to Fiesta last year, and I ref Fiesta, and that was fun.
Why wasn't I at Fiesta last year? I was at
Libby's wedding. Yeah,
I was at Libby's wedding. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I went to Fiesta last year, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm either gonna do Fiesta or Stemley. I might do Stemley because I've never gone to that one. But
Stemley is stacked this year.
Yeah,
it is, and they have some cool new game rules, which like like the potential what they're talking about doing will just like strategy minds will go wild. It's cool.
Yeah. And then I'm doing Mark in August too in Michigan. I don't know. There's probably more that I'm forgetting. I do a lot of events.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like it. Well, thank you for doing that because like I mean, I'll speak for competitors out there. It's nice to have good reps because it's not nice when you don't.
Sometimes that's well at off seasons too. I always try to ref because I feel like sometimes I throw people in and I train people and I love it. Anyway, Karthik, amazing job as always. What's going on with you this summer?
Just living life. So that's the best way to wrap this thing up. Just living life. So all of you out there in the audience, let us know what you thought of the show. You can hit us up on our Discord, on Facebook, Chief Delphi. We want to deliver content that you want, especially if there's a historical match that you guys want to see. Let us know and tell us about that. Tell us why we should cover that match, and maybe it'll be the match we choose for our next episode because we will be back with FUNalysis next month. But don't forget, we've got shows every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and if you want to catch up on tomorrow, we got FTC Live going on at 8:30. We got great shows. Tyler mentioned we're going to be bringing back trivia, so stay tuned to the Fun Network for awesome stuff happening all summer long. We never sleep here. There is no off season. It's kind of like if there wasn't a bag for the robots. On behalf of myself, Pauline, PJ, and our producer Tyler, we want to thank all of you for tuning in. Thank you to our moderators in chat. We'll see you next time on Fun. Talk to you then.